Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the first lecture of the course on Reconstruction, dealing with the years 1863 to 1877. This will be looking at the overarching essay question will prompt you to respond to the following. Discuss the four key questions concerning Reconstruction, the three phases of Reconstruction, and describe the Compromise of 1877 and how it eventually led to the reestablishment of white supremacy. So, for the first concept, discuss the key questions regarding Reconstruction. This is basically just an introductory view, just to demonstrate of where we're going. And a lot of what this concept is going to do is, as you'll see when you get through the rest of this lecture series, it's going to overlap through the rest of the concepts. First key question is, did the South ever leave the Union? So, Reconstruction, just to give a little bit of background, is right after the Civil War. The South obviously has lost. The Confederate States of America has lost. And they're trying to reintegrate the South, both physically trying to reconstruct it, and to bring the South socially, politically, and economically back into the Union. So the key question for those charged with the responsibility of reconstructing the South up in Washington is, did the South ever leave the Union? That is, did they legally leave the Union? President Lincoln is going to argue the South never left the Union legally. It was illegal for them to leave it in the first place, and so legally they never left the Union. Congressional leaders, popularly known as radical Republicans, will argue they indeed left the Union and they lost the war and they're conquered territories, and there's going to be a process for them to be reintegrated back into the South, or back into the Union. The South being reintegrated back into the Union. Lincoln wants this to be a painless and very quick process at first, because he's worried about what historically happens with civil wars, is that the victor wants a pound of flesh, right? And they will really stick it to the losers of the Civil War. And usually what happens after civil wars is, after a number of years, the Civil War reemerges, right? And people are back to fighting once people are able to reorganize, and the fighting emerges and the Civil War goes on for years and years and years. So Lincoln wants to avoid that at all costs. Congressional leaders, on the other hand, are going to argue that, of course, they're conquered territories, we are the victors, and we're going to use this as an opportunity to reconstruct not only the South, but reconstruct the direction of the country for future generations. Second key question concerning the South is, how do we rebuild the South after its destruction during the war? So it was a devastating war for the South. The Sherman March through Georgia is just one example of the rampage that the North implemented within the South, tearing up railroads, burning buildings. All of that has to be replaced and fixed up. The South, in some ways, is actually still recovering from the destruction of infrastructure within the South during the Civil War. Third question is, how do we integrate and protect newly emancipated black freedmen? So we've got 4 million people that are newly freed. How is the country going to deal with this legally and socially is the big question. And so there's an attempt to try to create within the South a biracial, social, and economic and political equitable society. There's an attempt, and a very serious attempt at it, that creates a great deal of optimism within the community of the South. The fourth key question is what branch of government should control the process of Reconstruction? This is a big question for the South, because for the Union, because it has to deal with with question number one. Was the South did the South ever leave the Union, or was it a conquered territory? So the president is going to argue, obviously, that the executive branch has the authority to deal with Reconstruction, since he's commander-in-chief. Congress is going to argue it should be Congress's role to deal with Reconstruction. So there'll be a big fight within this. For the next concept, we'll get into phase one, a presidential reconstruction plan. So we'll reconvene back then. So click now, concept 2, presidential reconstruction. So basically what we've done in this concept is we've looked at the 4 key questions dealing with Reconstruction. Again, these key questions you're going to see come up throughout this lecture series in dealing with it. Okay, I'll talk to you guys a little bit later.